Dang, jeez. Hey guys, it is me back with another Woman Chat Wednesday. I am certainly I don't want to say I'm excited to talk about it. It's not that it's something that I'm excited about. I'm actually pretty perturbed. Um, Yet again, this is something that kind of formed itself or presented itself to me as an issue that I wanted to discuss. um just because of things that have been happening lately. It definitely, my topics tend to evolve from the first time that I think about what I want to talk about to when I actually get to sit down and talk about it with you. And I have copious notes. I mean, it doesn't seem like a lot, but I have, both sides of notes, and these are things that originally I was going to talk about um a little bit more in depth about Dania Jackson, um, just because there were some things that she said and some things that were said about her, in terms of the way that she was dressing and the things that she was writing on her social media, that I wanted to address because it was so closely kind of related to my subject matter and my experience here. Like, I told a lot of people were just kind of like, oh, she crazy, she got problems. But I totally could get where she was coming from in terms of just her feeling like now she wants to dress the way that we've seen her present herself, and how she came to the conclusion that that was something that she wanted or needed to do, and just the reasons how a woman comes to that conclusion, based off of her experiences. So then from that standpoint, I was exposed to some media on YouTube as usual, per usual. I saw some things that kind of took it a little deeper for me. And then today, just in general, while I was just, scanning Instagram, I came across the video that I wound up posting in my stories before my little flyer for Woman Chat Wednesday tonight. Um, hey, Goddess Lima. Um, I saw this video where Amber Rose, and I know it's an old video, where Amber Rose is talking about how, as a woman, if you get in a situation with a man where you are laying down in the bed naked with him and you decide you no longer want to have sex with them, that no means no. Regardless of how they feel, regardless of whether, how far you come, no just means no. And then I'm in the comments of that post and I'm seeing all of this, oh, well, women need to be accountable. You shouldn't have been there. And it's just like, yo, how do we get here? You get what I'm saying? It's no wonder that as women, we are completely bombarded with so many different things from every angle, so much responsibility, not just for ourselves, but for the behavior of the men around us. Men that we may or may not even know are watching us. Everything is always on our shoulders, to keep the peace or to keep everything right. And it really has got me in my feelings very deeply. Because, so like I said, first thing I originally wanted to talk about was Dania Jackson and her posts, and just her, how she seems to feel about how she covers herself and why she covers herself, and not necessarily wanting to show herself as being sexual and this and that and the other. Then from there, I saw this video. It's a channel on YouTube called It's Complicated. And what they do is basically they go around and you don't see the person talking, but they're filming people and they're asking them questions with a certain mindset in mind. So the ones I saw, one was like women and accountability or something like that. So they're in Las Vegas, first of all. They're filming women who are clearly drunk. Most of them have some kind of drink in their hands. It's clear that they are drunk or buzzed or whatever. And they're basically asking them questions in an effort to illustrate that women are, they say one thing and they do another thing. They're not accountable for their own actions and things like that. And they're asking them questions. Like, I know on one, he asked, why do women lie about how many men they've had sex with if they know that it's important to some people, and they're just like, and the women are saying, well, it really shouldn't matter if you like the person, yada yada yada. He's like, yeah, but if you know that it matters to some people, then it matters, doesn't it? And stuff like that. And they're like, well, okay. So basically, he's making them look like they don't know what they're talking about, or like they're just blowing stuff out of their behinds or whatever. When in actuality, they're just open to his interpretation of things. They're open to his perspective or whatever. But generally, that doesn't make what they're saying any less true. So then on another video, he asked a different woman in a different places, but he asked them in Las Vegas still, I believe. He's like, well, he makes the point that men bond by being physical. And so if you want to bond with a man, he's like, well, why do you make a man wait? And she's like, oh, well, you make them wait because you want to get to know them and da-da-da-da-da. He's like, yeah, but scientifically, they say that men bond over being physical and stuff. So why not go ahead and have sex with them? And, so now this is a whole nother, there's a different spin on the same thing. So whereas before, you're basically saying to women, it's wrong of you to tell a man or to not tell a man how many men you've actually been with because it matters to him. But at the same time, you're telling women on the other video, oh, you should just go ahead and have sex with men because that's what they want to do, and that'll be the easiest way to bond with them or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, it's making it seem like there's no winning. As a woman, there's no winning. No matter what you do, you're wrong. And my thing is, I'm looking at this presentation of the logic of men, because the idea is men are always logical. No matter what they do, it is logical. It's linear. You get what I'm saying? And in the sense of the context of, yes, they always want sex, it's linear. But in one of the videos, he asked the woman, well, why do y'all assume that men only want sex? Because this is how you pose everything. It's all about how many people a woman has had sex with. And if she's had sex with too many people, and he asked women like, oh, well, what did he say? Basically, it was something, the answer was that men don't want something that a lot of people have had. So the ultimate viewpoint is that as a woman, you can't be promiscuous, but you also shouldn't withhold from a man. And if you are withholding from a man that wants you, then you're being dubious in some kind of way. You're being manipulative, or, this is that general idea. So just hold on to that concept right there. So then I'm watching the video today with Amber Rose talking about it. And in the comments, the women are saying basically the same thing he's saying, like, it's on the woman. She shouldn't have been in that situation. I saw this one comment that really freaking blew my mind, and she was like, oh yeah, now that you see him, aroused with that crazy look in your eye, now you don't want to do it. And it's just like the idea that there's no way that situations can shift or change, once you've gotten to a certain point as a woman, is very dangerous. So the way I look at it like this, look, I go out with somebody and I went out with that person because there's no way that I thought that person would rape me. You get what I'm saying? And this idea that as a woman, you can stop a rapist from being a rapist means that you would have to know that they were a rapist beforehand. You get what I'm saying? There's no way that you can date someone with the intent of getting to know them without having a certain level of trust in them. Because the thing is, if I would be so on guard as to make the assumption that this person even might rape me, if there's a chance that this person could rape me, I'm not going to have a conversation with that. But you get what I'm saying? Like, we would never get to the point of me being naked around that person. You get what I'm saying? Now, let's talk about being in that situation. You can be in a situation with somebody where you want to do this thing and they want to do this thing and you're with it. So you do that. And then they pose, something a little bit further. And you think about it, you go, okay, I want to do that. So let's go. We already had the date or whatever, and now the day's about to be over. We could both go our own separate ways, or we can go over to his house, or we can go to my place. Well, I'm having fun with this person, so you know what? I'm open to letting the night stay on a little longer. And yes, I may know that may entail some touching, some physicality. Doesn't necessarily mean that I want to have sex, but doesn't necessarily mean that I don't know yet. I don't know yet. I like being around this person. I am physically attracted to this person, and I like this person's vibe. But I may or may not want to have sex with them. It's a possibility in my mind, yes. So we go and we're at whoever's place. So now we're at whoever's place. And yes, we're kissing, we're touching and everything. But again, does not necessarily mean that I want to have, I won't say I want to have sex. Doesn't mean I don't want to have sex. But again, doesn't mean I have to have sex. This idea that if I go past a certain point that I am obligated morally, that's the crazy part about it, because you're making it like a moral issue against the women. So the women are morally wrong for being a tease. You get what I'm saying? For this idea that of women being morally wrong for leading a man on, for having gone that place, for going that far. But like I said, as a woman, and these are things, this is a topic that I have intimate knowledge of. I had I'll say a lover. You know, I had a lover, because that's what he was. He wasn't my boyfriend. You know, it wasn't a relationship of, oh, this is my man or anything like that. He was my, you call him an F buddy, but generally that's what a lover is, right? You know, somebody, I think of a lover as somebody who you just have a sexual relationship with. So that's why I prefer to say a lover. He was my lover, right? So this wasn't our first encounter together, and we were at my house. So I'm completely in a safe space, right? That's how I feel, right? I'm in a space of my own. We had sex before. We were having sex that night. So that being said, he posed the idea of, let's do it this way. And I'm like, well, I've done it that way before. I didn't really enjoy it, but I've never done it that way with you. So I'm willing to try it with you. Okay, so that's consent, right? So then I gave consent and we begin. I'm like, yeah, okay, still don't like it. And I voice it. And he doesn't move. You know, he doesn't get off of me because he's on top of me. And then I go to get up. And he pushes me back down. So this is what I want to say. This is the point I'm trying to make by this. Am I wrong? Am I wrong for being in that position? Now, he didn't give me never. This was a man, like you could say, oh, some men, you can see they rough enough. He had never been rough. Very soft spoken. He actually was quite debonair. Like, he's a hood guy, but he wasn't, gruff. You get what I'm saying? He was very smooth with his presentation. He was, if I wanted to say, he was more like an R&B type thug. You get what I'm saying? So he wasn't like someone who I subscribe violence to. You get what I'm saying? This is somebody I was just like, oh, he's a very calm soul, very chill person. So I was taken off guard with this. And like I said, we had a sexual relationship. He was over there strictly for the purpose of having sex that night. However, that doesn't change the fact that what he was doing in that moment was not consensual for me. Do you get what I'm saying? Just because a woman is willing to spend time with you, just because a woman is willing to be physical with you, doesn't mean that all bets are off, depending on what it is they want to do. There is and then people, you might say, oh, well, what happened? You know what I mean? I remember distinctly when that was happening. And when when he pushed me down, and I realized, and I had the thought, he's raping me. I did not question it. I'm being raped. You get what I'm saying? It doesn't matter that he was here for having sex. I said, no. I said, stop. I tried to get up. And he pushed me, and he's holding me down and continuing. It's now rape. Now, once it was over, he let me, he got up. And I confronted him about it. I said, what the fuck was that? He's like, what you mean? I said, you know that was rape, right? And he was like, oh, come on, man. And it's this idea of making a woman feel like they're overreacting. When it comes to my body, it is never an overreaction. And this idea that I can never say yes to you and think that I could ever say no to you again is the problem. And so when I say that men don't care about women, like there's a video going around, and he's talking about exactly what I'm talking about. Men don't view women as people. They don't view women as people like themselves. Because when it comes to men, certain things can't even be said to men, even jokingly. And they can know that it's a joke, but they're ready to fight. But when we're talking about withholding our holes and orifices from them, oh, you're acting crazy, you're a teacher, there's nothing that we can do right except for just relinquish control or access. You get what I'm saying? But like I said, you can't even talk to them or joke with them certain ways about certain things, or else they ready to fight you no matter who you are. But this guy has a video where he's talking about how men objectify women. And so it really doesn't matter what women say or what women do. At the end of the day, we are just sexual objects. That is our full function. That is our purpose for being here. So anything that we say other than, compliance, other than support of their pursuit under all circumstances, no matter what they say, no matter what they do, no matter how they go about doing it, it's going to be problematic. This idea that women don't know what we want. One of the things that the guy in the one video, not the one that was talking about men not caring about women, but the one where the guy was talking about accountability for women. And he was saying that he was illustrating the point that women say one thing and they do another thing. And so because they say and do another thing, shouldn't they be discounted? Shouldn't what they say be discounted? You get what I'm saying? And I just remember thinking, that is such a dangerous mindset. It's such a dangerous mindset because basically he's telling you why these things are happening. Because men believe that, they're pushing the agenda that women don't know what we're talking about. That we're just spouting things out of our mouth. This idea of women just being emotional and it comes from absolutely nowhere. It has no basis in anything real. So whatever we say is to be discounted. We don't know what we want. So if I want to have sex with you and you say no, you don't know what you want. Why? Because you talked to me, you smiled at me, you didn't call the cops, whatever. But if you were to go, right off the bat, oh, you're crazy, you're overreacting, what's wrong with you? She's such a bitch. It's this whole thing. There's this other clip that I watch on YouTube. I never watched the show. And I didn't really know what it was about until recently, but just something was just keeping me away from it. And now I know it's probably because I knew I would have been pretty triggered. It's this show called I May Destroy You. And it's by Michaela Coel. She did that show Bubblegum. So anyway, it's a clip of her and she's in like a support group because apparently she was, spoiler alert, apparently she was sexually assaulted. So she's in a support group for survivors of sexual assault. And someone else is talking and she's saying like, oh, my perpetrator, when I told him to back up, he treated me like I was crazy. And Michaela Coel comes in, she's like, he does think you're crazy. He thinks you're crazy because he's been very thorough in watching, the way things are. And he's watched so deeply that he knows what the boundary is. And he walks along that line, never quite going all the way over to that side, but never shying away from it. And so to him, you are crazy because in his mind, he's not doing anything wrong. She's like, the only way to get him to stop is to show him by getting on that line with him and putting him in the same position that he put you in, basically. And she doesn't go in. Everybody has kind of a knowing smile, and intuitively, I think I know what she's talking about. Where basically, like, you meet them eye to eye, and you go, look, I see what you're doing. And it can go one of two ways. You can either back the fuck up, or I could, you know, we can go all the way with this, and then I can do what I can do in this little gray area, because maybe you can't say you raped me, but you also can't say you didn't. But I'm letting you know I'm uncomfortable, so now I'm leaving it up. The ball's in your court to back the fuck up. You get what I'm saying? And unfortunately, like, that's what you have to do. Now, when it comes to those comments that were on that video of Amber Rose, they were basically saying, you know, I'm guessing that they were saying that is how you're supposed to handle men. But this is my thing about it. If I have to handle a man like that, like, if that's the type of person he is, that he's continuously just looking for an opportunity to cross boundaries, I don't want to be around that man. And furthermore, to my point, if he's that kind of person, or if he showed himself to be that kind of person prior to me getting into a situation, we wouldn't have got that far. You get what I'm saying? Like, one thing that I could say is men are really, really good at being reasonable until they're not, because these things, like I said, are a slippery slope. When it came to my situation, like I said, we were dealing with each other in that way, so it was okay for him to be there, and it was okay for him to be naked, and it was okay for him to touch me, and it was okay for him to penetrate me. But once I decided that would, and mind you, it wasn't even like I was saying, oh, we can't have any more sex after this, I just don't want to do this. That's still rape. That's still rape. You get what I'm saying? And it's a Beyonce song. And she says, the first time I say no, it's like another say yes. I say yes to you calling me, yes to you dating me, yes to us being together, you know, yes to all these different things. But the moment I say no, I don't want to do that, I'm not ready for that, it's a problem. And that's really the basis of all of this stuff. So it's like, as a woman, if you're telling me that once I say yes to you on any level, that I can never say no to you, I don't even want to talk to you. We're not even going to have a discussion. And nobody can come at me. I have sat by myself purposefully. I have curved niggas for years. For years. Because when I got the understanding that, oh, this is how men operate, when that was my primary belief about who and what men are, I just said, oh, no thanks. No, I shut it down, pack it up, let's go. I don't want it. I don't want to be bothered. It doesn't make sense. But then you want to know why women have this nasty idea about men. You know, we have these nasty ideas and say men ain't shit and and blah, 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 blah. And y'all hate to hear it. But then you turn around and be like, oh, it's common sense that men act like this. This is ain't shit behavior. If a man would take your no as a yes, or take your no as a that doesn't matter at any point, for any reason, that's an ain't shit nigga. And that has nothing to do with your choices to that point. Especially now. If he's been showing you he don't care, and I'm not talking about, you know, oh, he didn't call me and things like that. Like, those are lapses in self-esteem. But if you are a person who believes in people being, if you're a person who believes in redemption, if you're a person who believes in, you know, giving people a chance, if you're a person who's just like, you know, people are busy, he's busy, he's a man, he's work, you know what I mean? There's so many different ideas that you get as a woman, because sometimes, like, I know me personally, I second guess myself, because I can be very hard on people, and I can be very hard on people because I'm very hard on me, to a point where I'm like, okay, I know I need to find a balance here. So I may be like, oh, something may have happened, or not even so much now, but maybe like in my younger days, it would be a thing, oh, something might have happened. I know, for instance, and this was naivete on my part, when a guy didn't call me, you know, after a while, I would automatically go to, oh, something happened to him, you know, he's in a ditch somewhere, blah, 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 blah. You get what I'm saying? And yes, that is textbook example of a guy just doesn't like you. You know what I mean? Wasn't there to get to know you, blah, 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 blah. But that's after the fact. I'm not talking about after the fact. I'm talking about during the act. You get what I'm saying? I'm talking about, when you've gotten to that point where this person hasn't been calling you consistently or been a little inconsistent, but you're so wrapped up in the moment because you like them and you want this to go somewhere, and it feels good to have his attention on me, and he feels good, his kisses feel good, his touching feels good, whatever y'all doing feels good. But then at a certain point you kind of have this sober moment. Maybe your ancestors tap you and go, all right girl, whatever happens, but you have this realization that this is not something you need to do at that moment, and you say, no, we need to stop. If that person prevents you from going, if that person holds you down, like, the person held me down, if that person does something to you beyond that moment other than what you wish, that is not a failure on your part. And I just cannot abide people pushing this narrative that there's anything that someone can do to stop a rapist from being a rapist. The rape doesn't come from, loosey-goosey behavior. Rape comes from entitlement. Rape comes from entitlement to other people's bodies. And it's no different when a man does it with a woman he took on a date than it is when a man or a woman, because women rape too, a man or a woman coerces, manipulates a child or someone who is in a position lesser than them, so like a boss and an employee. It's no different because it is an exploitation of a weakness or a perceived weakness. And I don't remember if it's like a proverb or whatever it is, but it basically says, like, it's not what you do when other people are watching, it's what you do in the dark that speaks to who you truly are. Every rapist is not that, boogeyman wearing clearly, a theatrical long trench coat and a hat and peering out from the darkness. It happens when you least expect it. It happens, like I said, from people that you've been around on occasions that you feel comfortable enough that you feel like, hey, we vibing. We're equal. In whatever we're doing, we're equal. And it becomes rape when it goes from us being equal in this to, oh, you don't want what I want, so now you don't get a say. That's when it becomes rape. And then now people may go into, oh, well, what about, men's rights, reproductive rights, and this and that and the other, abortion, and blah, 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 making men play alimony and this like that. And I say this about it. At the end of the day, this goes back to this idea. If y'all want a world where y'all don't have to be responsible for how the act of sex happens, then you also want a world where you don't have control over what happens to your sperm after it leaves your body. If you want to cry and say, oh, well, I'm an animal when it comes to having sex, then you need to fall back and let whatever happens and results from that sex happen. Now, if you want to step up and say, you know what? I take responsibility. You may say, oh, well, why are you telling women don't have to take responsibility? The saying no is the taking of responsibility. The saying the no is taking the responsibility. It doesn't matter when the no came. Saying no is taking responsibility. And if you don't stop after the no is said, then you need to take responsibility that you have just become a rapist. Period. It wasn't rape before the no. But as soon as the no happened and you didn't stop, that's when it became rape. Period. Now, like I said, back to reproductive rights. If you want to bust nuts and you don't care how that happens, then once it leaves your body, especially if it goes into, like, if people that, mind you, I'm not condoning women who pick up condoms and try to scheme and stuff, poke holes in condoms and stuff like that. I do not support that at all. I'm not saying that any and everything. If a woman is being dubious, if a woman is purposefully and knowingly trying to trap a man into a situation where either she wants to make it look like he raped her or to get herself pregnant so that she can live off him or whatever like that, that's not a good thing. I do not condone that. I do not support that. That's not what I'm talking about. And, fuck her if she does that. But what I'm talking about is the more often than not case of women just kicking it with a guy, going with the flow, and men deciding that just because a woman got them horny, that she doesn't get to de-escalate the situation from there. And even when I've had so many experiences, probably every man I've ever been, close to, made out with or whatever, I've had that statement of, look what you did. If they're hard. No, my nigga, no. That really is a turn off for me, to be quite honest. That statement of look what you did is a turn off for me, because it's an indication for me, it's a trigger that you don't take responsibility. You know what I mean? Like, to me, that's just like, I want you, don't put that on me, Ricky Bobby. You know what I mean? I don't like that phrase, because not even so much because it's said, but basically it's said and then it's kind of like, okay, now handle it. No, because typically, look what you did is followed by pulling of my hand, or you know what I mean, expectation of sex. I do not like that. If I'm kissing you, I'm kissing you. You know what I mean? And hey, you want to try to see if we could do, I'm okay with you trying, but don't assume. I can and might say no. You get what I'm saying? And that needs to be understood and accepted. But yeah, it really bothers me. And it's so sad because this is the mentality that has kept so many people in the dark about it and broken so many people down. And when it comes to, like I said, originally my WCW this week, I don't know if it was going to be WCW or my Spiritual Sundays, but I was going to talk about Danae Jackson and how she was talking and describing in great detail. And she's very good at it because, like I said, I know exactly what she's talking about. That comparing herself to other women and that specific type of what's it called? Specific type of self-consciousness and self-esteem issue or lack of self-esteem that makes you feel like, you want to try to be like somebody else. And then, once you've kind of degraded yourself and drug yourself through the mud and let other people drag you through the mud, then that accountability does kind of kick in, but it makes you feel such deep shame. And I'm talking about accountability where you take accountability, where you are like, hey, I could have prevented this, or rather I saw some things about that person that I ignored or I wanted to believe was something else. And now I'm looking at that person for who they are. And as I'm looking at that person for who they are, now I'm feeling kind of down on myself for letting that kind of a person do blah, 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 blah. I mean, you get what I'm saying? Like, that's what accountability is supposed to be. It's for you. It's not for somebody else to say, oh, well, I'm not as wrong as you're trying to make me, or, you're wrong, I'm not. That's not what accountability is about. But accountability so many times is weaponized against women. Why? Because we feel ashamed more often than not, especially when it comes to sex. We are so prone to feeling ashamed about having had sex with people, having let people have sex with us, having shared our body. We are so more often than not made to feel like we've done something so wrong to the point where now we start to act and present ourselves like Dania Jackson. And that idea that she's saying, oh, I put myself out there and I was whoring myself. And I saw some pictures of her before, and I can understand what she's saying. She was doing it for attention. She was doing it for validation and all of that type of thing. But she really wasn't so bad in terms of the stuff that she was doing. But this idea that now I have to completely, break myself down and dress myself down or whatever to start feeling clean again. It's a period of, I know I can't speak for her, but I remember going through a years long period of not even wanting, of trying to protect myself from male attention, because of that fear that ultimately men as a whole mean you no good. You get what I'm saying? And that if you are attracted to them in any way, shape, or form, that you are orchestrating your own victimization, that you are orchestrating your own destruction, that feeling that you are not ever safe where men are around. And that is further but like I said, these men are so upset that women view them like that. But when you think this way, when you speak this way, when you perpetuate this is rape culture. And you're basically saying that you should always fear me. Even when I'm not showing you my fearful face, you should always fear me. And like I said, I am a person who believes in sparing myself drama. So if you telling me that if you ever flip your face or take that mask off or put a mask on or whatever, however you want to, make a metaphor into, whatever kind of metaphor you want to make the act into. But if you show me something that's different than what you have been showing me up to that point, in a major way, in a way that I cannot deny anymore, or cannot deny at all, that it is completely on me, what I'm going to do is, I'm just not going to be around you. If you let me know that if someone were to do this, that it's okay under any circumstances, I got to stay away from you. And if you're further telling me that this is just the standard among men, then I guess I'm going to be alone for the rest of my life, because I will not tolerate it. It's intolerable. It's not okay. Now, I can say thank God that in the midst of seeing all these different things and having all these different feelings, I've also been finding and coming across and having presented to me media that gives me hope. Media of men who are conscious and who are saying, hey, I recognize that this idea of manhood and what it means to be a man and what is available to me as a man and what I should expect and demand as a man is false. And it treads on the humanity of women. Because that's really ultimately what the problem is. It's a problem of dehumanizing women. And what they don't understand is that when you dehumanize women, you dehumanize yourself. Like I said, I have been having conversations with a very dear family member of mine, and he's significantly younger than me. I've watched him grow up since a child. Now he is a young man, a grown young man. And listening, we have conversations about, male and female relations. And these ideas that he is expressing to me, I know come from a feeling of powerlessness, as a man of a certain, presentation. But basically the overall idea is, this is the way it is. It's eat or be eaten. It's kill or starve. And the main thing that drives this idea this dogma is this idea that as a man, I can't control my urges. I can't control my urges. or it is too hard to control my urges. It takes so much of me to control my urges. And this idea that at whatever cost, to relieve the pressure, at whatever cost, it doesn't matter who is sacrificed or what is sacrificed, at whatever cost, I have to quell this fire within me. And I remember the last time we spoke about it, I just was, in my mind, I just was like, this is the last time I'm going to speak to them about it, because it was breaking. Like, I'm getting emotional now thinking about it. It was breaking my heart. It was breaking my heart, because ultimately, if you take away the male and the female, you're basically just saying, look, somebody made me feel this way, and so now all bets are off. All bets are off. I'm now, because I feel like somebody dehumanized me, or I feel like, somebody embarrassed me, or somebody denied me, or whatever. Now I'm going to dehumanize this whole group of people for my own benefit. And the most crazy part about it is that nobody seems to see the parallels, or nobody on that side of the argument seems to see the parallels between this subject and racism, between sexism and misogyny and racism. We are watching in the midst of the trial of, someone who killed someone in cold blood. Everybody saw it. And they are vilifying the dead man and saying, oh, well, he was doing drugs and he was doing this and he was doing that. And none of those things had anything to do with that man kneeling in his neck for 9 minutes. None of those things justify that man kneeling in his neck for 9 minutes, cutting off his air supply and eventually ending his life. But they will use all of these things that may or may not have been quote unquote illegal or whatever, but to justify that action of that man. And it was preventable. It didn't have to. There was a million other ways that it could have went, but it went that way because of the choices and the actions of that man. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. Sorry, not sorry. It's the same thing. You don't have to do it this way. You don't have to be misogynistic to get pussy. And you may say, oh, well, you get more. You get more when you do it this way. It comes easier when you do it this way. Well, what do they say? Play dumb games, win dumb prizes. And the thing about it is, you may say, oh, well, what's different for the women? Because in a lot of cases, I wasn't playing. I wasn't playing any games. And in a lot of the cases where I was the woman who, got played, who got left, who got used and discarded, I wasn't playing. I wasn't playing. I was looking for connection. And I'm not saying it as, oh, I'm a victim, I'm pathetic. I'm telling you the truth. I was looking for a connection. I'm not one of them women who was out there, oh, I'm hungry. Let me call somebody up because I'm hungry. I wasn't one of them women who was just like, oh, let me fuck him to get some money. I held myself back from a lot of stuff because I just could not, because I'm always a person first. I cannot turn off that part of me that looks at a situation and says, I would not want that done to me. I would not want them to do that to me. Now, does that mean I do everything perfect? It doesn't. But if you can go back and look at, stuff I've done, I can tell you what my intention, and it's never like, oh, I'm just trying to, it is what it is. That's the game. No. Call me corny. Whatever. But right is right and wrong is wrong. And no matter what a woman is, even let's even make her, you know, a deplorable woman. If a woman corners you in an alley and strips all of her clothes off and is trying to climb, it's your job. Throw her and get the fuck out of there. But never should your dick penetrate her. You know what I mean? Because if she turns around, he raped me. Now, mind you, might she say that anyway? Yes. But that's clearly a crazy woman. 9 times out of 10, we're talking about just regular everyday people going out, having a good time, getting a vibe, and then there's just a moment, like it was with me, with my friend, with my lover, you know, where it takes a turn and you're not sure how you got there. And you're kind of self-conscious because you're like, did I do something? You know what I mean? Like, it's not like you're, as a woman, and I know we've all experienced it, you're not like, oh, you're crazy. You're like, no, did I do something? That we really genuine. And that's the moment when they know they've got you. Because when you are still being a human being and being willing to go, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to give you the wrong impression, then that's when they can come in and kind of guilt you and shame you and blame you and make you feel like you did something and you deserve it. You know what I mean? I know, I can't remember what the freaking movie is. There's a movie that I don't remember who the main character is, but I remember that in this scene is Donald Faison. And the main character is put in jail. And I want to say it's like a white man. But the main character goes to jail for the day or the night or whatever. And he's in there and he's just like, oh man, I don't know what happened. And Donald Faison's like, hey, you having a bad day, man? He's like, yeah. And he starts talking about what's going on. And you know, he sits down on the little jail bed. And as he's talking, he's caught up in the story he's telling. You see Donald Faison setting the mood, you know, he's fluffing a pillow or whatever, and eventually he takes off his shirt, and he's like, yeah, man, yeah, and he taps him on the shoulder, he's like, yeah, I understand what you're saying, and then eventually, it's not until Donald Faison actually puts his arm around the guy, and just kind of looks at him, like, yeah, you ready? And that the guy understands what's happening, is like, you know, you can see it in his face, he's like, how did we get here? What's going on? You know what I mean? That is what it's like as a woman, where you could be with somebody, and like I say, you could totally be making out with them, but in your mind it's only going to be to a certain degree, or at the very least you could stop at any time. Maybe you don't know whether or not you want to go all the way, but you're leaving it up to yourself to figure out what your limit is. You're not going to stop yourself before your limit. You'll know your limit when you get to it. You get what I'm saying? And then it's that moment where you've reached your limit, but they haven't reached theirs. And their demeanor changes. And it goes from just, hey, oh yeah, we're cool, you're safe, to, what do you mean though? Oh, you think you want to play me? You had me take you out to dinner. I spent money on you. You get what I'm saying? Where the switch flips. If it had been like that from jump, you wouldn't have got there. So to sit and say that a woman is wrong for getting there is like, fuck you. You know, like, honestly, fuck you. With a long, hard dick. It just really, like I said, it really set me off. It really bothered me. I was terribly, terribly triggered. So, I mean, ultimately, I don't want to leave it on such a low vibration, such a low feeling. So, it's like, well, what can you do? You know what I mean? And what I would say is the best bet, and what I feel is the best road of plan of action, is to just kind of, if you've had something like that happen to you, if you've had something like that happen to you multiple times, I will say you may need to take a step back from interacting with men, because clearly you are attracting and entertaining the wrong kind of men. There are men who think differently than that. There are men who act differently than that. And I think the problem is, in a lot of cases when it comes to us, and this is where we come into being accountable. And like I said, accountability is not supposed to feel like somebody weaponizing something against you and attacking you. Accountability comes from the inside out. So in being accountable, you have to ask yourself, what are the examples of male female relationships that I am drawing upon to assess what is appropriate and not? You know, what are the examples of men and manhood and masculinity that I am drawing from to assess what is appropriate and acceptable or not? You know what I mean? What are my core beliefs about my worth and, you know, what I bring to the table? Because all of these things are the basis of what you experience in your life and what you tolerate. You know what I mean? I'm at a point now in my life where I am much more scrutinizing about, and in a different way, about who gets to have access to me. You know what I mean? And I'm not just talking about, you know, physically. I'm talking about just talking on the phone. I can easily, you know, pretty quickly suss out something that it just doesn't, it seems like a waste of my time. Whereas before, I would push myself to continue interacting with people because I made the assumption that I was emotional or I was crazy or I didn't know any better. You get what I'm saying? It's so pervasive, this mindset. Even when you fight against it or reject it, that mindset is so pervasive. And like I said, I saw it in the, it was mostly women. You know what I mean? But I would second guess myself because I was saying to myself, oh, well, you know, not necessarily I don't know what I'm talking about, but just like, it's not that big of a deal, or, you know, you gotta play to win, or you gotta give people a chance. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, just, I would talk myself into it when honestly in the beginning my energy was just like, no, don't feel it. And it doesn't even matter why you feel that way. I think the biggest thing that I told myself about stuff was that I was just denying myself company or denying myself attention or whatever because I had been hurt in the past and I didn't want to let them win. So I was trying to, you know, prove to other people, you know, indirectly that they hadn't affected me. And what I had to come to realize is it really doesn't matter why I don't want to engage with people. If I don't want to, if something is telling me that it's not time for me to engage with people, that this isn't a good idea, then it's just not a good idea, and I need to go with that. And the more, like, the main response on that post with Amber Rose that I wound up responding to was one that basically said, like, oh, they should have known better than to put themselves in a position. And I told them, I said, at the end of the day, it's hard sometimes to stop yourself when not sometimes, all the time, when the momentum is going a certain way. It can be hard to listen to your spirit telling you, because it's been telling you all along probably, but to stop yourself once you've gotten to the threshold and go, oh, wait a minute, I really should not be doing this. Because a lot of times there's so many situations where I went ahead with something because of that mindset of, oh, well, I went this far, I can't stop now. Just making myself feel like I had no choice. You get what I'm saying? So if you were able to muster up the spiritual fortitude in that moment to say no, you did you did a lot. You know what I mean? And you should be proud. No matter whether they listen or not, you should be proud of yourself for being able to listen to yourself when you already let yourself be swept up in somebody else's energy, to be able to still hear that still small voice in yourself telling you this is not for you, this is not your decision. You get what I'm saying? So you can, you can say no any other time, and just know that it doesn't make you less of a woman. It doesn't make you a bad woman. You know what I mean? Let's put it this way. If they're not a bad man for doing what they do, you damn sure ain't a bad woman for saying no when you understood that you needed to say no. You get what I'm saying? Like, and you're not a bad person for coming forward if, you choose to do that. And you're not a bad person for not coming forward. You know what I mean? And this is as someone who, like I said, that happened to me. I never said anything about it. Well, I never went to the cops. Eventually, like years later, I spoke about it. This isn't the first time of me speaking about it. This is my first time, speaking about it on a camera and in a public forum. But, and no, I didn't. I didn't call the cops. And I don't want to say funny story, but years later, because I met him through my friend, my girlfriend, who was dealing with his best friend. And so later on, years later, she was still dealing with his best friend. He had been, going forever and ever. And we were all sitting around together, not him, but my friend and his best friend and me. And we were sitting and we talking, and he came up, and we were just talking about him, and I don't know if he mentioned, I think he mentioned, she asked about him or whatever, and he said, oh, he's in jail, he's in jail for some kind of sexual deviancy. And I told his friend what happened, and he basically said, I've seen him do that before. And I said, and you set him up with me. Now, mind you, me and him didn't really know each other. She was messing with him. It's just one of them things where we'll tell your friend to get a friend from my friend type of thing. But I told I told him straight up, I said, you need to not do that again. I said, because at the end of the day, you could wind up getting swept up. If that's how he behaves, if you setting him up with people, if you putting people in his path, then that can fall back on you. Eventually, somebody can point the finger at you, like you setting people up. If you know this is how he gets there, you get what I'm saying? You get what I'm saying? Like, and it wasn't a thing. It wasn't no, oh, I'm crazy. It was just me just talking. We gotta do better. We gotta be better. We gotta look out for each other. And we gotta call out the people who have a predatory mindset. It is a predatory mindset to believe that women are crazy when it comes to their bodies and the penetration of their bodies, that women are somehow in the wrong for exercising autonomy over their bodies. We have to stop this. And I'm glad that's why I have much faith that we are in a time of transition. Seeing up Me Too and all this stuff going on, the pendulum has been held up on the side of men for so long that, yes, now that it's been chopped down, it is swinging all the way over here, baby. It may feel like it's shifted all the way over to women's side, but eventually, for me, the ultimate goal is for it to be here, to be resting and balanced, and we can all just, love each other and take care of each other and share with each other without having to have people taking more than what we're willing to give on either end. You know what I mean? So I think that is the most positive note that I could end a subject like this on. I thank you so much for coming here with me, Goddess Lima, from Victim to Victoria, the real Sansa Ray. Thank you so much for just listening to me talk about this and go on and on and on. Like, but it's definitely important. We definitely have to talk more about it. We definitely have to, speak up more about it. So yeah, I will see you guys. I'm gonna have a long weekend this weekend. I'm off Friday. I didn't realize it until today. So I'm gonna hang out with my baby, but I will probably be back for Spirituality Sunday, hoping for some better weather. So maybe I can go out. I've been looking for like a nice botanical garden or something. I just want to be out in nature, around some greenery, and take my babies out. And so I will see you guys then. Thank you so much for joining me for this Woman Chat Wednesday. 3 weeks in a row. I'm back, y'all. I'll talk to you. Oh yeah, I want you to see my glasses. They are purple. Oh, I should have wore my glasses. These are so cute. I look cute. So yeah, good night, y'all. Have a good one. I'm tired.